Welcome to day 4 of MAHA Uncensored. Today we look at a pair of diseases now reaching epidemic proportions in America: obesity and dementia. One they say is incurable with no medication offering any disease-modifying effect. The other is said to finally have a miracle cure in the form of GLP-1s. One is said to be irreversible and completely outside your control. The other is said to be a simple problem of willpower and a lack of discipline. In both cases, we may have it all backwards. Today you'll find out from top experts in both fields. And please, if you do just one other thing today, please consider us by purchasing the full MAHA Uncensored film today. That's all 16 chapters plus hundreds of dollars in valuable bonuses. I thank you in advance for your support. We couldn't do it without you. And now please stay tuned for our next chapter, The Brain Under Siege, From Incurable to Regenerated.
My name is Max Lugavere. I'm a health and science journalist. I began my trajectory out of college as a generalist journalist on television in the United States. I worked for a news and information network that was in 100 million homes, and I likened myself during that period of my life as a stem cell. I was undifferentiated. I was very eager to leave a positive impact on the world by telling stories that were being under-discussed. I'm the firstborn in a very small family. I'm the oldest brother. I've got 2 siblings, and I've always been incredibly close with my mom. In around 2011, 2012, my mom started to display the earliest symptoms of what would ultimately be diagnosed as a rare form of dementia called Lewy body dementia. Now, I had no prior family history of any kind of neurodegenerative disease. I didn't know what dementia was, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. I mean, these were not terms that were in my lexicon. I thought that they were essentially old people's conditions, par for the natural course of aging. But when my mom started to show these symptoms, I took a very active interest in understanding to the best of my ability what was going on with her. And it was very hard to arrive at a diagnosis at that point. She had symptoms that were not quite clear. Was this Alzheimer's disease? Was it Parkinson's? Was it some sort of hybrid of the two? And so ultimately, our journey took us to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. And it was there that for the first time my mom was diagnosed with a neurodegenerative condition, and she was prescribed drugs for both Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. I did what any millennial with a data plan or a Wi-Fi connection would do. I started Googling the drugs. Repeating phrases would stand out to me: no disease-modifying effect, incurable, progressive, degenerative. That was the first time in my life, literally sitting behind the screen of my computer, I had had a panic attack. Just conceiving of how this might play out for the person who meant the most to me in the world. So for me at that point, I became singularly focused, obsessed even, on understanding to the best of my ability why this happened to my mom. And in tandem with that, I wanted to understand if there was anything out there from a non-pharmacologic standpoint that might be exploited to her benefit, to help her. Because, I mean, right then and there, I was seeing that these drugs are essentially nothing more than biochemical band-aids, and for many, they don't work even in that capacity. I became fixated on research. Now, I had not been a medical doctor, I hadn't taken an academic path, but I realized that I had something that very few civilians had, and that was media credentials. I wasn't famous, but I had a bit of media clout that I felt would allow me to email physicians, scientists who were studying Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia through the lens of a more holistic approach, through the lens of prevention.
To combat these germs and to protect public health, modern medical practice enlists the aid of vaccines, serums, medicines, and drugs. Annually, about 300 million prescriptions are filled by pharmacists. They strive constantly to find new medicinal weapons to combat man's greatest enemies, the germs of disease.
This one pill for all ills does not work. It is a failed experiment. The research is actually gamed that way. As we see, you've got false data being published as like the word. Somehow this cult of science, rather than a true scientific approach, has taken charge, and with our agencies being captured, the revolving door just keeps spinning between the FDA and Big Pharma. In 2019, Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA commissioner, joined Pfizer's board of directors just months after leaving the agency. Now in February of this year, Patricia Cavazzoni stepped down as director of the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, the top drug and vaccine regulator, and joined Pfizer as chief medical officer. That has to stop. This direct to consumer marketing to program everyone to think, I gotta ask about that drug. Our airwaves have been captured. And so you look at where does that skepticism come? Well, we can trace it back to the Flexner Report, 1910, Rockefeller. He commissioned a whole commission to look at the medical education in the United States, and it basically did away with herbal medicine, with natural medicine. By the turn of the century, we had over 100 naturopathic, homeopathic colleges and universities teaching botanical natural medicine. They went away, fast forward to 1940, they were all gone. And it was a concerted effort by the medical establishment to go into patent medicines and petroleum-based medicines. It doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's utilize the best of all of the systems for people today. I think we can accelerate change right now. We are living at that hockey stick moment in time if we allow it to happen. The research is there. The results, most importantly, are there. And that is the piece that we need to get out to people, to understand that the future is now and you have more options than you've been told. And it's super effective medicine that you actually feel different.
There's a real problem now with what's known as polypharmacy. So your average baby boomer is on at least 5 different pharmaceutical medications. Many baby boomers are on even more drugs than that. And my mom was an example of that. By the end of my mom's life, she was on a dozen different pharmaceuticals. Again, nobody on earth knows how a dozen different drugs are interacting in a system that's growing increasingly decrepit. Not only do I not think that any of the drugs were helping my mom, but they were likely making her worse.
We spend more than twice as much on our healthcare in this country than any other country on earth. Yet we have the 34th or 37th worst results in terms of health span and lifespan. We're the only country in the OECD that has this level of expenditure per capita, and for the first time in the history of my life, we're seeing life expectancy actually drop. So we're not seeing people live longer, we're seeing them live less long. How is this possible in a system where if those companies, if that science, if those trials were being run in a transparent way, focusing on real and good science, how could you have negative health outcomes on a macro basis? With Parkinson's, with our active immunotherapy, I can go after the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the country. And we were just, at the very end of last year, we were just on the cover of Nature Medicine for being the first Parkinson's drug to ever engage the toxic protein that causes Parkinson's and remove that and see patients improve statistically significantly from it. So first drug in Parkinson's to ever reverse the course of disease. Of the top 10 or 20 pharma companies, one of them tried to shelve our product and told us that they wanted to shelve it so that they could maintain profits on their product. And then they would bring it to market, but they would deny people a better drug, a safer drug for a decade because of that profit motive. And they said that to my face. Another big company tried to buy it and be in control of the price point so that they could price gouge and charge a lot for it and follow their same model. So limited volume, very high prices. This upsets me more because you're robbing people of their lives and their loved ones. And you're doing that while literally we spend over $500 billion a year in real money on Alzheimer's a year. It's the largest single expenditure in the entire government budget. It's $350+ billion a year in Medicare and Medicaid, largest federal government budget in the world. So what we're trying to do is go after the very biggest, stickiest, scariest things. And the reason we're trying to do it is because that's where the biggest impact is. I knew this was a ticking time bomb that was only increasing. I saw that we were seeing a higher incidence, and I still believe that that was being brought on by environmental and social factors. Everything from food to microplastics.
In the past, the kinds of conditions that we would typically suffer from were infectious. They were not the breed of chronic diseases that are now seemingly saddling modern society, which in many ways are mediated by our environment. And our environment includes our food environment. With regards to dementia, there actually is quite a bit of research on the role of diet and lifestyle on brain health. Today, most of the calories that your average adult consumes come from ultra-processed foods. When I began this journey, we hadn't yet had enough research to say that ultra-processed foods were connected to increased risk for dementia. But over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of research which has linked the consumption of ultra-processed foods, which now make up 73% of the modern supermarket, to myriad ways in which your health can suffer. Increasing risk for Alzheimer's disease is one of those ways. In fact, there was a recent review and updated meta-analysis that found that ultra-processed foods were linked to 32 different negative health outcomes. One of the studies that was incorporated into that meta-analysis found that for every 10% increase in ultra-processed foods a person consumes, their risk for developing Alzheimer's disease increases by 25%.
So really taking this holistic approach of health, we've got to address our environment. And we know one of the premises of why neurodegeneration is on the rise, we've been on the planet longer. We're exposed to many, many more toxicants, dry cleaning agents, folks that live within a certain radius of a dry cleaning shop, or you've been working your whole life and getting your clothes dry cleaned, the off-gassing of that dry cleaning agent creates neurodegeneration. I discovered early on in my career, Dr. Perlmutter put a picture up and a video of a gentleman with Parkinson's diagnosis, and he pushed glutathione on them. And it was like a miraculous cure. The guy, his face came alive, he started to walk. And I was like, well, I'm doing IV therapy. I'll just do that with my patients with Parkinson's. And nothing happened. The first 5 patients, because what I learned in environmental medicine is we're exposed to toxicants. I did a heavy metal challenge on them. All 5 of them came up with heavy metals. And the top 4 heavy metals that I find in folks with neurodegeneration: mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and lead. To give for instance of lead, we all heard about Flint, Michigan with the lead in the water. At that same time that episode happened, there were 400 municipalities that had higher lead levels than Flint, Michigan at the time of that debacle. And so you look at, well, where is it coming from? Well, we had leaded paint, we had leaded gasoline. Those got outlawed in 1975, but they're still in the soil. We have acid rain from coal-fired plants going up into atmosphere, coming back down. We have mercury getting bioaccumulated in the larger fish. So we are polluting the environment that we live in. And when you talk about medicine in just a reductionist method of, let me just deal with this one person in front of me, you're missing out on, we need to actually change the fish bowl. We need clean air. That's another one. You know, recent research came out on Parkinson's disease, higher incidence of people living close to golf courses, 1 to 3 miles, higher incidence of Parkinson's disease. In the state of Utah, where we are, 2% rate of Parkinson's disease versus nationally 1% rate of Parkinson's disease? Why is there a higher concentration in Utah? Could it be the inversions in the valley and the level of toxicants that people are exposed to in the air?
Air pollution is a newly identified modifiable risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. Who knew? But it turns out the nose is the front door to the brain. And so when we're inhaling fine particulate matter, for example, industrial solvents like trichloroethylene, these chemicals have basically front row access to the brain and are now being thought of as being part of the etiology of conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, which is now the world's fastest growing brain disease.
Taking that first breath of air, it's the first thing we do when we're born, it's the last thing we do before we die, and no one's paying attention. So, you have outdoor pollution, you also have indoor air pollution. So when it comes to outdoor pollution, you're thinking smog, it could be wildfire smoke, it could be pollution from cars. Like, where do you think all that rubber on the tires goes when you're driving? It's not on the tire anymore, it's in your air. We breathe more microplastics than we do drink it. The amount of pollen and mold and allergens, all those outdoor pollutants come inside your home. But then indoor, you have a new host of indoor pollution. All the chemicals that we're using, the hairsprays, the air fresheners, the cleaning products, the oils in your pan, the fire retardants on your furniture, the toxic paints. And then the way we build our homes now is incredibly airtight. So since the 1970s, there's been a huge movement towards energy efficiency. So that's keeping our building envelopes, keeping our homes very tight. It can't breathe. So if your home can't breathe and you're trapping all those toxins and chemicals inside, well, put it this way, the average indoor air is 5 to 10 times dirtier than outdoor air, and humans are spending 95% of our time inside. So the only thing keeping you alive all night long while you're sleeping is the air that you're breathing. I call sleep healing time. And if you can optimize that healing time by having clean fuel, clean air when you're sleeping, you're able to sleep, heal, rest, recover, your muscles will repair, your memory consolidates, and you can't have a good day without a good night. And a good night starts with clean air.
The other components in our environment are molds. 50% of the buildings in North America have had some mold damage. Different areas of the country and higher humidity have higher rates of mold as well. And we need to measure that, especially when we're thinking about our brain. The state of research that we've had over the last 50 to 100 years has really been missing the boat. It's a reductionist methodology, which we are greater than our pieces and parts. And we'll take Alzheimer's, for instance, beta amyloid plaque. There has been billions of dollars put into studying the removal of beta amyloid plaque in the brain of folks suffering with dementia and Alzheimer's. Well, we come to find out that was falsified data. That billions of dollars has gone to trying to figure out Alzheimer's and dementia based off of falsified data. And because it was a reductionist model, it's not just one thing that leads to dementia or Alzheimer's. It's a multifactorial process, and it's different for everyone.
When I was a kid, NIH was the premier gold standard scientific institution in the world. Over the years, it was captured by industry and by, I think, a kind of ossification that happened at NIH. And there was a tremendous amount of corruption. And I could talk to you about scientific corruption all day long, about horror stories that we know have happened within NIH. One of those, probably the worst, is the amyloid plaque scandal. For 20 years, we were, because of utter corruption and fraud, we were directing Alzheimer's research to one hypothesis, and any other hypothesis was shut down. We should have the cure for Alzheimer's today. We don't have it purely because of corruption at NIH.
Both the Senate and Congress have very low approval ratings, even lower now than almost ever, right? Pharma tracks at about 4%. Pharma is supposed to make the Band-Aids for your parents. They're supposed to make the medicine for your baby when they have a fever. They're supposed to make the medicine that saves your parents or saves you. They're supposed to do all these things that are only good for you. How could they be that hated? How is that possible that they could be that hated? And the answer is, if you've been lied to and tricked and cajoled that much, the truth in a package, if it's still a lie, people are opening the package now. And they've opened that package enough times that I don't care how many times you write truth on it, they know it's a lie.
Today, more than ever, we live in an information landscape where, just like our food supply, a lot of the information that's being fed to people is ultra-processed. So my motto, what I've always said, is that my approach is evidence-based, but not evidence-bound. I've coined this to describe my approach, which I think, when we're looking at conditions as complicated as Alzheimer's disease, you see that Alzheimer's disease is the tip of the iceberg representing a field that's wrought with fraud. It's important to be open-minded to the possibility that we don't yet have all the answers.
I haven't always been in brain regeneration. I was a general family practitioner specializing in attention and brain performance. But I really got into the specialty of brain regeneration as my wife, Soraya, at the time, developed a rare neurodegenerative condition called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. This was a rapidly progressing dementia in a young 40-year-old. With those diagnoses, I knew we needed to do something. No known cure for anything on the differential. The medical system completely frazzled fried. It's even worse today. I already knew the medical system was broken. Even as a provider trying to navigate it was madness, especially with her life on the line. I swung for the fence, went looking for solutions. Unfortunately, what I found didn't help Soraya one iota. I didn't want my suffering to be for naught. We created a roadmap and a blueprint for folks so that they could have that support that is so missing today. That has become a beacon for so many really struggling with neurodegeneration. And in the process, I've become a neuroregeneration specialist. And we're helping people from around the globe regain their function. I feel like we get better results than other centers because we're addressing whole people. People come out for a week-long program to Park City with us. And in there, we are doing a laser-activated and guided V-cell procedure, which is very small embryonic-like stem cells. They're autologous cells from the body that get woken up by a laser. So there's that frequency discussion again. But that laser breaks a salt bond called CXCR4 that then activates this cell that has just been waiting for this light to be activated. And then we direct it back into the body. We do it IV, we do an intranasal procedure, we'll do joint injections as well. We then have an insurance policy with hyperbaric, so we feed the body concentrated oxygen that allows those cells to set up shop. We do bioenergetic acupuncture, creating fields around the person's body with Skinar technology that the Russians have taken to space, where it has different frequencies that are emitted from a device that go to nerve or go to bone or cartilage or anti-infective, etc. We then also do sound baths. We'll do a sound bath before the procedure to put a person into theta state, which is that kind of pre-dream state. It's a deep, relaxed state that a lot of meditators get to. We found we're able to do that with sound bowls. We couple all of those with specific frequencies, IVs. We also have a really advanced light bed that you can do a voice scan that measures your biofield. We put that into the light bed, and then that travels with the red and the green light and feeds your mitochondria. We are living at an amazing time that we're able to stack these things in the correct order. One of the pieces that we've put in is really looking to quantify this for people. I realize we need more research, and we are putting in NeuroCatch, which is an evoked action potential P300. It's the first sign of any cognitive decline for folks that are worried. Maybe you've seen your parents or grandparents go through dementia, Alzheimer's. So those evoked action potentials, you just listen to beeps and boops, and it registers when your brain hears it. It's 300 milliseconds after a sound is when that's an optimally charged brain. So that could be an early sign of any cognitive decline. And then we also do an 18-lead EEG, electroencephalogram. It's kind of the spider octopus on somebody's head that we measure every center and region of the brain and looking for any history of TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, or concussions, anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD. We can pick up a lot of things on looking at an electroencephalogram. We are publishing on Parkinson's reversal, dementia's reversal, these uncurable conditions, so they say. That is now a misinformed opinion because we are publishing on those changes. A very pronounced case that we wrote about in the Journal of Stem Cell Research, peer-reviewed publication on a case series, we showed Hawley's substantia nigra, which is the region of the brain affected by Parkinson's. It showed consistent with Parkinson's on imaging with a DAT scan. After the ECHO protocol in our process of brain regeneration, we now have her substantia nigra consistent with her age, but more importantly, she's off all of her drugs, which she had been on for a decade, and has no symptoms or evidence of the disease. Her gait has improved, no tremor. She had lifted this death sentence on herself, double confirmed by Cleveland and Mayo clinics as well. People come to us in multiple stages of disease. A lot of folks at the end stage or have had the diagnosis and symptoms for a decade or two. We are getting the word out to newly diagnosed folks because the sooner the better. It's never too late to attempt to reverse it because we've had very debilitated patients get their lives back. It's given me such a deep appreciation of our bodies, of what we're fully capable of life, the miracle of being here. We don't know how long we have together on the planet. One of the goals, and I hope from this movie, of what we're doing with the MAHA movement is uncovering that and unleashing the full capabilities of providers in North America. We've been dampened, we've been censored, we've been not included in discussions as to what we're actually capable of doing, and we're doing it. I'm a radical optimist, but I see the future, and it is very bright. We have patients healing from as of yet uncurable conditions. I like to say we see a lot of spontaneous remissions in our center because we're treating people as heart-centered dynamic beings and treating them holistically. Let's advance the practice of medicine for the betterment of all. This is what we need. We need this to accelerate because the information is here, the access to it is lacking.
For me, it's always been about how we can empower people to take the reins of their own health, to become experts in their own health. Agency, informed consent. That to me has always been mission critical. Because today, by the time you show up to your physician's office, these are often diseases that have been simmering under the surface for decades. So how do we empower civilians, people that don't have a medical background, to know more about health science? Scientific literacy is at an all-time low, and as somebody who is largely an autodidact, meaning I'm self-taught, this is something I felt more people needed to adopt. If there was a pharmaceutical that I could have given my mom that would have cured her condition, I would have been first in line. But that pharmaceutical doesn't exist. These are conditions that begin in the brain decades prior to the onset of symptoms. So that's why I really think pounding this drum, and why I've made it my life's work to pound the drum for prevention. It might have been too late for my mom, but it's not too late for most of the people that are watching this.
If you stopped 1,000 random people in the street and you asked them all the same question, why do people get fat? I would bet very good money that all 1,000 of them would say they eat too much. And this is simply not correct. It's not how body fat storage happens. It's not how the obesity epidemic came to be. It really doesn't have much to do with the total amount of calories being consumed, but it has everything to do with the quality of those calories. The crisis that we're facing is what I call the low energy crisis. Everything in human health depends on energy. And the real crisis today that's leading to all of these epidemics that we see with chronic disease and obesity and everything that's kind of plaguing America today comes down to energy. And all of the information that's basically coming out of the mainstream that's attempting to tell humans how to get healthy is decreasing their energy levels by default. If you're someone like me who's worked with a lot of overweight and obese individuals, or if you even are an overweight or obese individual or have a member of your family that is, you know that all the symptoms that come along with this are low energy symptoms. So people feel cold all the time, they're dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, they may have depression or anxiety, and the only solution that we give them is eat less food. Where fundamentally the way that you create energy in your body, the entirety of human metabolism exists for one reason: to take food and turn it into energy. Telling human beings to eat less food is the worst health advice we have ever given in the history of mankind. I think it's that problematic. I think it is one of the primary drivers of poor health and chronic disease in America and globally, is that we tell humans to restrict their food intake. Every single adult across the board carries a belief that food is bad for them, or at least that too much food is bad for them. When we say studies show that we eat more than we used to, people are only going back about as far as the early 1970s, and they'll say, look, we eat 200 to 300 calories more per day on average than we did in the 1970s. Therefore, people are overweight and obese because we're eating more food. But 200 to 300 calories a day does not explain the obesity epidemic and how quick it came on and the exponential rise in it. So what I like to do is have people go back further in time, because if we go back further in history, we actually eat a lot less than we used to. I always direct people to something called the 1939 Yearbook of Agriculture. And what it did was it tracked the dietary intake of Americans living in New York City at that time. It showed that the average 155-pound man in 1939 was consuming between 4,000 to 4,500 calories a day. Today, the average American's consuming anywhere from 2,300 to 2,400 calories, and 75% of the population is overweight. Over 40% of the population is obese, and we're eating nearly a third less food than we were in 1939. What we have to look at is what has changed in the food from 1939 to 2025. And really, the changes happened about 75 years ago with the advent of ultra-processed foods. So in 1939, those 3,200 to 4,500 calories that people were eating were basically red meat, butter, bread, milk, maybe some fruits and vegetables, but we really didn't have mass-scale monocrop agriculture at that time. You could go get an avocado from Mexico when you were living in Massachusetts or New York City, right? It just wasn't gonna happen. The foods that they were eating at that time were either single ingredient foods or maybe a maximum of 3 to 4 ingredients with something like homemade bread. And track that forward to today, the average item in a grocery store has 20 to 25 ingredients in it, because these are ultra-processed foods that are made in factories with all sorts of things that we don't even know what's in the food at this point. So if you think about that logically, you have to sit and wonder, do we even know what a healthy human being looks like? We've never been able to study healthy humans. The human system has been poisoned by metabolic toxins from ultra-processed food for 75 years at this point. And we see hockey stick growth in obesity, hockey stick growth in cancer, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, all of it.
Medicine took a wrong turn with the idea that cholesterol causes heart attacks. That is the root of everything wrong nutrition-wise in medical science. It has implications that affect every aspect of our health, because when you tell doctors that cholesterol is unhealthy and it's actually a nutrient, everything about medical science is distorted to support this wrong idea. If cholesterol causes heart attacks, you would expect that people with higher cholesterol numbers have a significantly higher risk of heart attacks, and people with lower numbers have zero risk. That is not what you see. There's never been anything published, anything close to that. And here's where it really gets crazy. When you look at people who have had heart attacks, they're in the hospital just having had their heart attack. What are their cholesterol numbers versus people who are in the hospital for something else? The people who are in the hospital for having had heart attacks have lower cholesterol numbers, significantly lower. The people who are there for something else, they have significantly higher cholesterol. You would think it would be the opposite if cholesterol was the cause of heart attacks. So all of nutrition science has been fatally distorted because of this adherence to fear of cholesterol. And that's where we invite the seed oils into the conversation. The seed oils are the worst thing in the diet. Your body fat composition is changed because of the polyunsaturates in seed oils. You have 5, 10, 20 times more polyunsaturates in your body fat than it can possibly use for fuel. And polyunsaturates, what do? When your cells try to burn them for fuel, they shut down the energy production. So basically seed oils poison our metabolism, so we can no longer get energy from our body fat, and between meals we get hungry. That's the root cause of our obesity epidemic. Something like 60 to 80% of everything in the average grocery store contains seed oils. We've got 3 C's, corn, canola, cottonseed, 3 S's, soy, sunflower, safflower, and then there's rice bran and grapeseed for the total of 8. They are too high in polyunsaturates. They are treated too harshly as they are extracted from the seed. And polyunsaturates, when they're treated harshly, will do something called oxidize, which means they will degrade. So they change from something that nature made that could be good for our body to something nature doesn't make on purpose and that actually has toxic effects. And the fact that they multiply like that has absolutely escaped the nutritionists who actually promote them as healthy.
What we're essentially doing is not only like convincing people that it's okay, but actually encouraging people to put things into their body that are non-food items, that are gonna completely disrupt the way their metabolism functions, that are gonna lead to poor health outcomes. And when those poor health outcomes happen, we blame their bodies. We don't stop and say, wait a minute, we just injected a bunch of metabolic toxins into this human organism, and now that organism is having a hard time. We say it's your fault. You lack discipline, you lack willpower, you lack motivation. You're gluttonous, you're a lazy person. Why can't you just work out more? Why can't you just eat less? It becomes constantly blaming the human body instead of loving the human body and trying to understand that it's desperately trying to adapt to an unnatural environment. If you go see a personal trainer, they're gonna tell you that it's calories in, calories out. If you say you're not losing weight, they're gonna say you're not really in a deficit, you're lying about what you're eating, you don't know how to track your food, you just need to go to the gym more. It's a constant you problem. They're gonna remind you of all the ways that you failed, that you have no willpower, that you have no discipline, because it all just comes down to calories in, calories out. If we look at calories in, calories out, and then consider that 73% of all the items in modern grocery stores is ultra-processed foods, of which we know 10,000 chemical compounds and 1,500 known metabolic toxins are allowed in that food, well then we have to consider how much of your diet is actually metabolic toxins.
Everybody has probably heard about the Women's Health Initiative, but most people don't realize we had almost 50,000 women around the country enrolled in a dietary modification study. The premise of that study was if we could lower women's consumption of fat to 20% of their diet, maybe our rates of breast cancer would approximate those of Japanese women and not American women. To keep them engaged, we had contests to see who could come up with the most creative way to lower the fat in their diet. The winner almost every month was some version of what we call the WHI trifle, which was fat-free angel food cake, non-fat pudding mix with skim milk, non-fat dairy topping, and then maybe some fruit. Then promoting being low fat, but high refined carbohydrates. And we used to scratch our heads and say, surely this isn't the right way to be going. What we learned was that it had absolutely no effect on the outcomes we were looking for. We were looking to reduce breast cancer. It did not. And so we thought, well, maybe it had an effect on cardiovascular disease. It did not. Maybe it had an impact on metabolic disease, on diabetes and prediabetes. It did not. It actually had no beneficial effects on health. Maybe we asked the wrong question. We didn't even measure what kind of fat they were eating, because in our thinking back in the mid-90s, it didn't really matter too much. It was just pure and simple, get rid of fat. So we learned that the kind of fat matters. We learned refined carbohydrates promote inflammation, and inflammation, now we know, really is a bigger problem than fat circulating in your bloodstream.
The argument that all calories are equal and it's just calories in, calories out is like saying that you can fill the tank of a car with any liquid that you want, and it's gonna create the same amount of energy as it would from a full tank of gasoline. That argument fundamentally doesn't make any sense. And yet that's exactly what we're doing with human beings today. We've convinced humans that it is totally okay for you to eat a bunch of things that are non-food items as long as you count your calories. We need to give people more energy. And the only way to do that is more real food.
For decades, Americans have grown sicker while healthcare costs have soared. The reason is clear. The hard truth is that our government has been lying to us to protect corporate profit-taking, telling us that these food-like substances were beneficial to public health. Today, the lies stop. The new guidelines recognize that whole, nutrient-dense food is the most effective path to better health and lower healthcare costs. We are ending the war on saturated fats. Protein and healthy fats are essential and were wrongly discouraged in prior dietary guidelines. Diets rich in vegetables and fruits reduce disease risk more effectively than many drugs. Whole grains outperform refined carbohydrates. Added sugars, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, drive metabolic disease, and today our government declares war on added sugar. Highly processed foods loaded with additives, added sugar, and excess salt damage health and should be avoided. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear: eat real food.
You're going to pay for your health sooner or later. And you can pay for it on the front end where you have better tasting food, better quality food, and that makes your body healthy. Or you can pay for bad health on the back end where you ate food that wasn't quite as tasty and you end up feeling sick, you don't have as much energy, and you have to see the doctor more often, take more drugs, undergo surgeries, and you don't live as long.
People aren't used to spending cash on their health, so there's a lot of different education that needs to happen here. And part of the education, I've always believed that we would be a much healthier country and world if we didn't pay for everybody's health care the way that we do right now. What I think we should do is have catastrophic health care and basics, but think about how you take care of a pet or your car versus how you take care of yourself. We tend to go to the doctor and go, well, if insurance isn't covering that, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'll wait till it's a problem. You would never do that with your car, and you certainly wouldn't do that with your pet. So what I know to be true is when we pay attention, right? That we commit with time and we commit with money, and that if we had a system where we didn't have everything taken care of for us, we would actually pay much more attention to our health.
As long as we insist that the only thing that determines whether or not you're healthy is if you're fat or skinny, then we're gonna be trapped in the cycle of calories in, calories out.
I think for so many of us, we've just been measuring the wrong thing, and it's let us down. So let's take, for example, you wanna lose weight. And so you get a scale, and you do really great that day. You do everything you were supposed to do, and you exercise, and you step on the scale the next morning. You're excited to get on the scale because you know it's gonna tell you something great, and the weirdest thing happened. Your weight went up, and you think something's wrong with me, or they think I just didn't do it hard enough. And then they up the volume and they go harder, which of course, maybe they'll see a little bit of a weight loss, but then they might see a little weight gain because they can't keep it up because it's so darn hard. I say this because I think what we have to do in order to be successful is make the right types of goals, and that goal should not be a weight loss goal. That goal should be a body composition goal. And when you make a body composition goal, you actually make a health optimization goal, because a body composition goal means that you're looking at your body going, okay, I want to be at the right amount of weight for my height and my frame size, but more importantly than that, I want to have the right amount of muscle mass. Muscle is a sugar sponge. When you have more muscle, you give carbohydrates a place to land on your body. That means they don't have to get converted into fat and stored in fat cells. If we focused on putting on the muscle, we'd be excited when we stepped on the scale. We'd be excited when we went, wow, I was lifting 10 pounds overhead, now I'm lifting 20 pounds overhead. You all of a sudden have metrics that you can actually improve, and when you do, over time, all the rest of the stuff that you want to improve is going to naturally happen.
Just after 1939, there was a very famous study conducted called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment. And the Minnesota Starvation Experiment was a year-long experiment with 36 male volunteers. And what they did was, for about 6 months, they had these men eat at their baseline, which was 3,200 calories. Then they put them into what was called a semi-starvation diet for an additional 6 months. They fed them half of what their body's caloric need was. So that number was about 1,570 calories. So what happened over the next 6 months was absolutely horrific. 100% of these men reported that they had zero sex drive whatsoever. Over 80% of these men were dealing with major depressive disorder. 4 of the subjects were actually removed from the study because they had to be put into a psychiatric ward because they were hallucinating and having suicidal thoughts. Some of these guys were consuming about 40 packs of gum per day because they just had such a desire to put something into their mouth. The physiological side is even crazier. Because yes, these guys lost 25% of their body weight. Now, today, researchers would be like, hooray, they lost weight, it's all calories in, calories out. Their livers shrunk by 30 to 40%. Their heart tissue shrunk by 25%. Their measured cardiac output decreased by 50%. Their metabolic rate dropped by 40%. This is catastrophic to human health. We don't need to force our body into extreme situations to try to burn as much fat as possible. If we make sure that the environmental inputs, the environment that we put our body in, is set up perfectly in a way so that our body really has no reason to store excess body fat, then the body fat is going to naturally work its way off over time.
The other thing that we did not really focus on in the Women's Health Initiative was weight loss. One of the things we have learned since then from the research on GLP-1s is that weight loss all by itself has beneficial effects on the outcomes we were looking at, whether it's cancer or heart attacks or certainly metabolic disease and diabetes, because it reduces inflammation in the body overall, because it's less strain on your heart to pump more blood to all those other cells. Now we have an opportunity with GLP-1s to do really exciting research on the effects of weight control long-term in an adult population. But it still matters, I think, what the food is. We are made of what we eat. And if we don't eat quality foods, we're in big trouble.
This is my fat story. I love filming people. I hate being on camera. But I don't know that people like me are being represented in the conversation as it relates to weight loss, GLP-1s. I have been unsuccessfully struggling with my weight since I was 20 years old. I was on the Atkins diet in 1975, which is the keto diet now. I've done every diet known to man. I was a vegetarian for 7 years. I did low fat. I ate those stupid rice cakes that tasted like packing pellets and did everything known to man. I went to hypnotist. I hired a psychologist. I had therapists. I hired a trainer 25 years ago, Dory, who 20 years later would become my wife. At the time I'm doing this, I weighed 240 pounds. I was not sitting on the couch. I was exercising twice a day. In 2005, I was weighing 240 pounds. I told Dory, I'm gonna go get the lap band around my stomach. The first month I was on a liquid diet and I ended up losing 30 pounds. And then I leveled out for a couple of years at 220. So even exercising with a band around my stomach, I was still 220 pounds. So then this HCG diet came out where you inject human chorionic gonadotropin every day, and eat only 500 calories a day. And you're supposed to do it for 40 days. So I did that diet for 52 days at 500 calories a day. I started waking up, I couldn't sleep at night. As your body's starving, it releases adrenaline while you're sleeping to unlock fat. So got off that diet, but that took me down to 172 pounds. I settled in at 185 and stayed there without dieting for a decade. I've got a big belly and I'm kind of fat, but the difference between the misery of 260, 185, I'm like, okay, I'm happy. This is what Jeff Hayes looks like. In December of 2022, John Lawrence, who's a doctor who's in this MAHA series, was staying at my house. We're sitting at my counter, and he poked me in the belly and he goes, "Why do you still have this?" And I'm like, "Oh, John, you don't know the story. I'm very happy. I don't ever want to be on the diet treadmill again." And he goes, "No, Reagan has got peptides that will help you get rid of that." And I'm like, "Really?" He was talking about our friend Reagan Archibald, who's a peptide expert, written books on it. So I talked to Reagan, and then I talked to my traditional doctor. And because I was pre-diabetic, I actually qualified for my insurance to pay for Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide. So I started on that in January of 2023. The effect was profound. I didn't lose weight fast, but my relationship with food changed overnight. I would eat and I would have enough food and I would know it and I would stop. This is what it feels like to be normal. I've lost 110 pounds. I weigh 158 pounds today.
Fat people are actually willpower athletes. When I was really heavy, I put all of my willpower into saying no to the cookie, into just doing one more hour on the treadmill, into just feeling that gnawing sense of hunger all the time. And all I did was make myself anxious. I overtrained. I gave myself autoimmune conditions, a thyroid condition. It is mean-spirited to tell people to exercise more and eat less when the science doesn't support it. So I'm all over any innovation that's going to help to reduce hunger, to help people lose fat instead of muscle, and GLP-1s work great for that.
Let me just briefly explain what GLP-1 even is and what it does. GLP-1 is a hormone that we make from our small intestine. And when certain foods are coming through the small intestine, we are stimulating the release of GLP-1. And then GLP-1 starts to flow through the blood. GLP-1 will have a few effects, all of which are favorable to the body. One is that it will act on the brain to stimulate satiety. So when GLP-1 goes up, it goes to the brain and says, "Hey, I'm done eating." So it will naturally help the person curb their appetite a little bit. Facilitating that same effect is that GLP-1 will slow the intestines down. And so food will linger longer in the stomach and through the small intestine, which naturally is going to have the person feel a little bulkier in their stomach, and again, they're going to control their appetite more. That's the main effect when it comes to helping control food intake, which is then helping control weight loss and facilitate weight loss. I think a strategy here with the GLP-1 drugs could be both microdosing as well as see how it worked for a period of time being on. Now let's monitor you. How are you doing with your cravings? So they're starting to come back. Okay, let's cycle you back on to help you learn to control those again, with the hope that over time, the frequency with which you'd need to cycle on perhaps would get less and less frequent.
A lot of people complain about GLP-1s, like it's cheating. GLP-1s, absolutely great, just don't misuse them by not eating any food and not moving. What's missing from the conversation is that GLP-1s, when you take very low doses of them, have profound effects on risk of Alzheimer's and on longevity itself. So I look at GLP-1 drugs at 10% of the dose for weight loss as one of the most important innovations for longevity out there. So it doesn't make any sense to be judgy about GLP-1s.
For 30 years, I did research on effects of behaviors like food, diet, exercise on weight loss. and I'm getting millions of dollars in grants from the federal government. I am reading every article about weight loss. I'm reading every book, and I'm carrying probably 30, 40 extra pounds myself. A lot of it was just being exposed to what we call the SAD diet, right? The standard American diet. You're a busy professional with 2 small kids, and you're just grabbing food off the shelves and preparing them every night without really thinking, what's going into these foods? How healthy is it? Why am I hungry? Why am I feeling deprived when I lose weight? And then I went to my doctor because I saw people getting on semaglutide at that point. It was about the only option. And I said, I need help. I can do this. I've lost 30 pounds. I need to lose 20 more, and it has changed my life. I have a normal brain. It's not all focused on food. It's focused on colors and sound and ideas and other people.
If you look at the data that's come out where they were given the peptide and they had exercise intervention, much better outcomes. And so this is where I say, if you're not going to focus in on getting your protein macros hit and you're not going to hit the gym consistently, then you should not be taking these peptides, because we don't want to have any lean mass wasting, particularly muscle. That is our metabolic engine, that is our glucose sink. I'm arguing for tiny, tiny doses, but in the conventional way of use, in the allopathic community, giving crazy high doses to somebody who's not going to agree to be compliant with those terms, it's just a disaster waiting to happen. Because you imagine they've lost all the weight, but they've also lost muscle mass. And now they are sitting with no metabolic engine. So they've lost what they had. And if they go off the medication, that's the disaster waiting to happen. We don't want to crush appetite, we want to control appetite. But they're getting crushed, and they end up over here, and often insurance will run out. Interestingly, you only qualify for it if you're in the obese category. So imagine you've become unobese, and that problem has been solved, but now you're not qualifying for insurance. So they lose access to the peptide, and now the rebound is going to be significant and problematic. That's the real concern. When these are done properly and when they're done as part of a comprehensive treatment plan, really miraculous things can happen with them. Often when folks get on these peptides, when the neuroinflammation calms down, they feel much better and they want to move again. Not only is the food noise gone, but all the other noise. And so we're seeing studies come out on alcohol cessation, opioid cessation, smoking cessation. It allows people to feel in control of what it is they are doing to their body and what they are putting in their mouth. It also induces neuroplasticity, so rewiring of the brain. So imagine now they're given an opportunity to get a leg up. You're teaching them all of the things they need to be doing, lifestyle-wise, intervention-wise, nutritional-wise, and they start doing it. They're going to hardwire those patterns in. So it's almost like this miraculous zone of opportunity if done appropriately.
It is the #1 cost of all drugs. This is the biggest drug in our country. All Americans, even those who are not on Medicaid and Medicare, are going to be able to get the same price for their GLP drugs. We'll lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. It is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country.
We have the data. Obese children generally come with obese parents. We have to treat the family. We have to address the family. We have to address the food that is happening in the households. We have to address the school food. We should not be feeding our children ultra-processed carbs for breakfast. Fruit Loops are not food, they're human kibble. And so there's a lot of things to address when it comes to childhood obesity. I don't think slapping a kid with Ozempic is the solution. That said, this child's life living with obesity, they're looking at infertility, they're looking at early heart disease, they're looking at death, they're looking at a miserable existence. And so I think it's up to the individual, it's up to the parents, it's up to the physician.
The thing about RFK Jr., that he doesn't have a dog in that fight. He doesn't have some massive company that's going to benefit from people eating more steak or eating more eggs, for example. He's not going to benefit from that. He has no ulterior motive, I believe, than just saying, hey, what we're doing isn't working. It's time to mix it up. It's time to be disruptive.
At what point do you look around and just consider for a moment, we have just about everything wrong? At what point do you stop ignoring the mountain of evidence that is suggesting that food is the problem? That other toxins, all these different toxins that disrupt metabolic function, at what point do we stop and say, actually, if we put all of our focus into making sure that Americans have enough high quality food and making sure that we remove as many toxins as humanly possible from our food supply and the environment, we could significantly change health outcomes in America in a very, very, very short period of time. It's fantastic news because the solution becomes incredibly simple, and it's a message of hope because all you have to do is focus on one thing, and that's the quality of your food. If all you did was learn how to read ingredient labels and then make sure that when you're in the grocery store, you're just shopping the outer perimeter, which is where all the food exists, all the proteins and fresh produce and fish and all these things, you're solving 80 to 95% of the entire puzzle just by focusing on the quality of the food that you're taking in. These issues are not really political. It's not about a political party. It's not about big food, big pharma, any of this stuff. It's about the continuation of the human species.
I want to take a moment and talk about food. We know that so much illness is tied to the quality of the food that you eat. That's why MAHA recently partnered with celebrity chef Pete Evans to make eating right as simple as possible. It's called the MAHA Cookbook. Chef Pete covers everything from how to get the right ingredients, how to get started in the kitchen, and much more. If it's in the MAHA Cookbook, you know it's healing food. Chef Pete Evans' work has been featured by Oprah, on Netflix, and many other places. He has been so generous to donate this cookbook for our viewers. At 259 pages, it's not just packed with great recipes, it has resources to get you into the kitchen, advice for how to stock up on healthy ingredients without spending a lot, how to involve your kids, keto recipes, broth recipes, fish, beef, and much more. You can get this cookbook when you purchase the full MAHA Uncensored film today. By purchasing this film, you're helping us keep today's viewing free for you and the many other people who need it. Thank you for doing your part. I'll see you tomorrow for our next chapter on one of the biggest conspiracies in medical history and two powerful therapies that mainstream medicine is fighting tooth and nail to keep under wraps.